it?
I'll tell you the national anthem, which kind of hairs in the back of my neck. We played Israel once, or possibly I think Brian was in charge.
2-2.
Yeah, there's right national anthem. I wasn't expecting it because it wasn't like 60,000. What we made 25,000 people there. Not the type of stadium you thought, this is going to be high energy. This is going to be intimidating. National anthem came on. It was, in terms of how the passion is down that people sung it, just the energy, literally hairs in the back of my neck.
The lyrics
you're talking about in terms of debate, in terms of there's something behind it, in terms of what's coming out.
I was actually on holidays in Southeast Asia before, and as you meet people on your travels, and I met an Israeli soldier who was one of the nicest guys I've ever met, and I have deep misgivings about Israel as a state and all that, and what they do to the Palestinian people. But I gave him the national anthem, and he was actually overcome by emotion. And the words of that anthem are, "We have not given up hope to be a free people in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem." That's the end of their national anthem.
Right.
But they do get passionate about it, in fairness. With the history of Israel, you could see why they could. But if you go to even that part of the world and into the Middle East, when you get I'd say the crowd, the audience, like the atmosphere, it's so heated.
Yeah. Must have surprised me. It was
Clinton Morrison 6-1 in after like 2 minutes. That was the 1-1 draw.
Was that the 1-1?
In Israel, wasn't it?
Yeah, they scored. I wish I brought that up. They scored
that was the game, and that was Brian Kerr's era, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The one thing, Brian Kerr is on record a lot about giving out about things at the moment, but I will always say Brian Kerr, we were far too defensive under him when we were ahead, and that game in Israel, they scored that goal because Shea Given couldn't see the ball because there were 10 Irish players at the edge of the box.
No, you're right.
It was so deep.
No, I take responsibility for that, and I'll tell you why. Because the area he struck the ball, again,
into the
corner.
Don't
want to go back. Well, no, the kind of no pressure on the ball. And it's this thing like you're, as a central defender, thinking safety in numbers, allowing people to come onto your toes, thinking, well, that we're safer because of this, and you're not. The more experience you get in football, you realise that actually the safer you are, the further you get your midfielders away from you. And what should have been happening there, me personally, should have been pushing our midfielders 10, 15 yards higher up the pitch, so there was earlier contact with that ball. That fella shouldn't even have got that shot off, went through somebody's legs into the corner of the net. But the point was, he shouldn't have had time to have a touch, get his head up and get the shot off. And it was for that reason, like you're talking about, myself predominantly as a centre-half, not taking responsibility or making the decision to get people higher up the pitch, get away from you. You might be thinking I'm more exposed, but actually you're not. You're exposing yourself more the more you actually pull people around you. And it took a while for the penny to drop in that respect. Just about learning, I suppose.
This is 05, is it? Around then? It was, yeah.
Yeah, because they've done the same at home. They came to Dublin, then we were 2-0 up in the home game. And
that was due to a lack of keeper, was it?
Bloody hell. Did you take the conversation here, Jared?
Yeah,
Dublin game there.
That's Andy O'Brien, John O'Shea, and that's you, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 3 centre backs there. Was John O'Shea left back?
He was. He was a left back at that stage of his career too, really.
Yeah. That, in fairness, the Israel game at home, like Brian Kerr had a lot of kind of misfortune in that campaign, but the Israel game at home was...
goalkeeper.
I was just absolutely disgusted. I don't think I've ever hated a player more than Dudu Awat, I think. Awat.
Yeah. Is that Andy O'Brien's last game or sometime around then? Pretty sure O'Brien finishes up.
Yeah, Andy was a lovely player. I love playing alongside
Matty Holland, Keane and Duffer, we didn't have, and Shea Given, we didn't have bad players. Daniel MacDonald did a piece in the Indo, was it yesterday, about the Irish players who played Champions League since 2000,
and Given, Andy O'Brien, Damien Duff, Roy Keane,
Shea Given.
Shea Given, don't happen anymore.
No.
Just doesn't happen
anymore. But even then, we players that were not on that list who were good enough, could have played I'd throw in Ian Harsday did play Champions League with Leeds, Stephen Carr, Steve Finn, and players like this. Carsey in particular for me was absolutely, I don't know what it is at right back in terms of quality of players
dynamic
we produce. Stephen Carr was brilliant.
That one,
there's Killer and Alat.
Kev!
Yeah.
He's
getting all aggressive.
Giving him a bit of the old Preston.
Yeah. I'd say he might have touched him there, and your man probably went down and rolled off, and Kev could have got sent off.
That was a disgusting game to watch. It was like,
what was that? The keeper, you mentioned the keeper. It was
absolute theatrics.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh,
that can't remember it. No, I just remember.
It's like one of the worst, most egregious cheating things that you've ever seen. Yeah, and then they scored.
And the whole shebang, was it?
Like, Irish football would have changed a lot. Here's the caption: World Cup qualifier, Republic of Ireland versus Israel, 4/6/2005. So I don't know if that's 4th of June or the 6th of April. I presume it's 4th of June.
June is, yeah.
Israeli goalkeeper Dudu Awat tries to convince referee Kairos Vasaris that he's injured.
Greek referee, was it?
He actually looks half familiar.
Pretty weak, yeah. That campaign would have changed Irish football.
That was such a tight grip. I really felt for Brian, actually.
Swiss as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Swiss and then...
The Swiss game at home was horrible to watch.
Yeah, but that was too late. The damage was done. Those two Israeli games, home and away, having the lead and losing the lead. And even the French game at home was a tight game. They beat us 1-0. Henri put it...
Your earphones out of that.
Excuse me. Henri put it... in the top comp, but there's very little between us in that particular case. Really tight group, the top 14.
Henri's goal, that man.
Brian was hard done by, though. He really was. Like, it wasn't... Well, you obviously worked under him, but we knew what we were about, at least, and Brian still has a lot to offer football.
The football was defensive. Like, you're here now, and there's no point...
I don't know what you mean by that.
You protected Leeds.
I mean exactly the point
we
you made.
didn't protect Leeds.
Or tried to.
So the point...
I disagree, but you're saying that suggestion that there was a conscious decision or was an instruction for the manager that if we get in the lead, lads, we're going to drop off and we're going to defend this lead.
Was it an Irish thing?
Of course it wasn't. No, it's a natural thing in any sphere of sport. In terms, it's a psychological thing. You get in front, particularly as the minutes start to, get closer to the end of the game. You take a step back. You look to defend. You become a little bit more cautious, stroke a little bit more defensive. Wherever you want to call. I think that's pretty much a natural thing, and you have to fight against that for the reasons that I've said. Because sometimes it's not by dropping back, by pulling people around you. You're not more defensive security. You're inviting more pressure on yourself, and the likelihood is somebody's going to make an individual mistake increases more in the wrong area of the pitch around your box that you don't want. So, yeah, but to suggest we were a defensive team is wrong. I'd have to put that. No, I wasn't saying we're defensive.
I wasn't saying we're defensive. But I think we in games like that we should be, with Roy Keane on the pitch, we should be just managing the game better. And now what worries me is, like, what is it? 13 years later. What's our football philosophy in this country, like, as a national team? Like, we seem to have actually regressed, if anything, like.
Yeah, well, those times I played under Mick and Brian, and really in terms of the structure, how we played was very similar. Pretty much we played kind of 4-4-2. You know, two banks of four and two up front, one off. You get Duffers played for the time behind. Robbie and stuff was Noel, whoever Clinton was up there, but it was that was basically, I think we had a set kind of pattern in terms of how we wanted to play. Played with natural width, two wingers, the defensive, and we stuck with that even when Brian came aboard. Very little changed, so I think there was and we worked on it. Mick worked on it. We prepared. We were organised. We done our work on the training pitch. Brian was the same. Brian was very diligent, even in terms of the analysis room, which I loved. I lapped that up. A few of the lads would have been, fucking hell, not another video, like, Jesus, Brian, you know what I mean? But I thought actually Brian was spot on with it. I mean, nowadays it's just accepted as par for the course, like, you know what I mean? But that was good for me. The preparation was good. We understood what was expected, was how we were going to play. We didn't win every game, of course, you know. There was reasons why we didn't, but generally speaking, in terms of how we prepared, the understanding of the game plan, what we were looking to do in possession and out possession, was pretty clear. You were making the point about us at the moment.
You have the under-21s playing Germany there, what was it, like last week?
6-0.
A hockey 6-0, like. And by all accounts, like, they knew very, very little about the opposition. But they're playing Germany, like.
Well, that's paramount. Well, that's...
They're playing Germany.
I don't know.
Like a team of by all accounts, they weren't particularly well coached in terms of who they were playing. And obviously,
you're throwing that out there. But the basic principle is right, what you're saying. You have to be prepared. And people say the modern game, forget about the modern game. This was happening in my time, before my time. You've got to prepare. You've got to prepare in terms of how you play, and also with a view to how the opposition are going to play. You've got to show the opposition a bit of respect.
I don't know why players would resent Brian Kerr trying to resent or have misgivings.
That story happened. That was a story at the time, that he would send DVDs to players and they would go unwatched, or that the players would complain, this is more analysis. Paralysis by analysis was definitely a narrative that got out there.
Yeah. Well, everybody's different, I suppose, but I didn't find that. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was over the top. I thought it was just about, it was spot on for me, because that was information I needed. Opposition players, forwards, potentially subs, even opposition subs. He's not going to play, but he might come off the bench. Who is he? I don't know who he is. We got any footage on him? Let's have a look. Yeah. Just in case he comes on for the last 10 minutes, he's playing centre forward against me. I need to know, is this fella, I've seen the footage, he's predominantly left-footed. He's got this little trick, a small little bit of detail, all that stuff really I wanted to know. That's the kind of things that we're talking about. These things matter. But I'm talking about the fun. I'm getting quite specific. I'm talking about the fundamentals in terms of how an opposition team plays 3-5-2, 4-3-3. How high do they send the fullbacks? How are we going to counteract that? Where are we going to get pressure on the ball? All these things have to be spoken about, whether it's in the video analysis room or actually practically on the training pitch. It's got to be done. It's not even a debate, John.
It's sad how long Brian Kerr's out of the game.
It's insane.
It's insane. Like, and I'm not talking about managing the international team, but like having no role at all in Irish football apart from punditry.
Yeah, which I think is actually probably important in that it gives him now the platform to.
Better than nothing.
To be an agent of change, where when he is talking about what's happening at the FAI and the lack of a footballing philosophy that is clearly identifiable throughout the game at all levels, people listen because it's Brian Kerr and he knows exactly what he's talking about.
And Noel O'Reilly departing as well, the way people spoke about him and the way they dovetailed with each other, maybe like Clough and Taylor back in the day, but they had a dynamic, and he was a massive loss as well, you know, it was tragic. But you have to spare looking at where are we going? Like, you know, is it just like, let's qualify for the next major tournament because the FAI badly need the money, and let's do this at all costs at the expense of developing some sort of football philosophy down the line, where we get away from this fanciful and ridiculous notion that we're technically inferior.
Just ask one, I get that the national governing body is supposed to have some role in setting that policy. But is there another way of doing this? Like, if that's not going to happen, can the football grassroots decide that we're a footballing nation, that we want to play with ball players and that we're trying to coach our kids in a certain way? Like, is there...
I think that has to be done. And I think it's...
Is that not being done, though? Because you get the sense that, like, so... We've had the various technical directors in at different stages over the years, all the way back to Coovermans to the current guy, and it's like they definitely want our footballers to have as many touches as possible.
It'll take time.
As many contact hours as possible with coaches.
Well, if you watch the 17s today now, right, I think the 17s are playing today, like, I'd say that they'll actually play lovely football. And they will pass the ball a lot more, we'll say, than the senior team. But it will take time. But I think in terms of setting an agenda, to set up our team under the auspices of Roy Keane, who is one of the best players we'll ever produce, and a world-class midfielder at any level, who did not give the ball away. And to watch Roy Keane preside over what happened, we'll say, in Cardiff last November, or whenever it was, it's very, very hard to look on that and say, like, you know, as a kid, like, watching that, this is how you play football. It was absolute caveman stuff.
Yeah, look, there's a big discussion to be had there in terms of like football philosophy, the type of football, supposed good football, which we want to see. I mean, your opinion what good football is, in my opinion, might be, you know, wholly different. I think it probably would be. I don't particularly buy into this kind of possession-based game, get as many touches on the ball as possible. That might be relevant at a very young age, 8, 9, 10, 12. You're developing young players, they're kind of technical ability, many touches on the ball, great. But for me, once you get into an age 15, 17, 19, then it's all about the game. You've got to learn the game there, you've got to understand the game. And from an Irish perspective, organising our teams in a way where we can be competitive going forward at those levels, 17, 19, 21, and particularly at senior international level.
But then
you're talking about our own style.
You're saying we have to develop a style so that we're competitive at 17, 19. That you're telling them players you are technically inferior to other teams.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying play a style of football which best suits the strengths of our players.
So what are our strengths? So is it still that we're just like, we're British, we're big and strong, and we get about players, but technically we're inferior? Why are we technically inferior?
I don't think that, but I don't think necessarily we are overly technical. Now, do we play that football at the technical level or other sides? Not, maybe not, but I think we've got other attributes to our game which we need to tap into as well and maximise them and play more of a high energy, more a direct style. You say, direct football, whoa, that's in the Neanderthal stuff. We're not going back to that. Well, why not? Some of the most successful club teams of the last 10 years have played a reasonably direct style of play. Atletico Madrid is probably the best example of that. Look how successful they've been. Look at the type of quality players, individual players they have playing. But the type of football that they play isn't necessarily possession-based football, almost a percentage-type football at times. But they've been hugely successful playing that way. So for me, I don't buy into that. A little bit uneasy, possession-based, technical touches on the ball. Let's play a brand of football football that we're actually good at, we enjoy, and can be successful for us.
We were at home to Georgia not that long ago, and we were played off the park in terms of technical football. I'm like, Georgia, and I'm not putting Georgia down, but like, surely to God, I hate this notion that because we're Irish, we're automatically technically inferior. Dundalk went to Europe 2 years ago, and they didn't look technically inferior for a club that had no budget. So I'm like, it's not
a case of being technically inferior. I'd like to see good football, but I'd like to see good football played in the right area of the pitch, 30 yards from the opposition goal. I want to see lots of good technique there, good combination play, 1-2s, good quality cross into the box from wide area. Callum O'Dowd.
Absolutely,
that's good football.
Absolutely.
That's great technique.
Quick Atletico Madrid question: could we develop a player like Griezmann who could play in our system? We'd all be delighted. But at the moment,
no. But we can play a system that Atletico play, predominantly a 4-4-2 system, not particularly a possession-based system, even leaning towards a counter-attacking style of football, and still be very, very successful.
But is the architecture in place to develop a Griezmann? That's the question. Ultimately, you're arguing here about what the senior team style should be and what's going to be most successful at senior level. But
Atletico's success doesn't stand or fall on whether Antoine Griezmann stays in the Atletico Madrid team or not. That's my point.
No, but they replace him with a player of equal standing. So they've had world-class strikers at Atletico Madrid all the way back to Fernando Torres coming through as a kid. We don't at the moment create the architecture to bring those players through and give them the opportunity to play.
Another thing which isn't discussed, and this is very, very brief, our players probably suffer because they play in England, a lot of them. If we have nice technical players like Sean Williams, who looked very good against Poland for much of the game, he'd be probably better off playing somewhere in Europe, right? Even Ryan Manning, like our star under-21 player, I've seen him from Galway United, technically, like outrageously, but he's playing at Rotherham at the moment. So you're like, does that Patrick McElhenney, outstanding in Europe for Dundalk, he went to Oldham, played in a 4-4-2, he's back at Dundalk now. So you're like, our dependence on the old imperial basically our dependence on England probably doesn't do us favours in terms of our technical players, in my view.
Maybe Brexit will be good for Irish football in the long run.
Maybe it will.
One quick